Boom. What's up, YouTube? Lord Houston, known as LTH, coming at you with a video. 713 the Space City. We in the mother humping building. Alright, so it's less than 72 hours before Texans take on the Baltimore Ravens in M&T Bank Stadium, where they have yet to win there. And yes, I understand that Baltimore has beaten the Texans the last 5 times they played. Under Lamar Jackson being on the center, who probably may not even play. But it'll be nice to see C.J. Stroud and Lamar Jackson battle it out. But if that doesn't happen, then it is what it is. Hopefully, if Baltimore could recover from this slow start, they can match up again down the road in the playoffs, assuming both these teams make it after recover from this slow start. So let's get into it. I understand that Baltimore is dealing with some pretty big key injuries. I get that, including Justin Madubuike, their biggest anchor on that Ravens D-line that could wreck offensive game plans and make life hell for opposing quarterbacks. And the Ravens defense have given Stroud hell, and Stroud has yet to score a touchdown against the Ravens defense. During his first three games as the Texans quarterback. So doesn't mean I'm gonna sleep on the Baltimore Ravens though, because Texans have a reputation of not matching up effectively against the Baltimore Ravens. Knowing that they're 2-13 all time against the Ravens, while John Harbaugh is 11-2 all time versus the Texans as head coach of the Ravens. And of course, D'Amico and Stroud both on 3 versus Baltimore when you include the 2023 playoffs and all. So, what can the Texans do to finally win in M&T Bank Stadium, where they had yet to win there, if it means reversing the trends / narrative? Well, I'm gonna go on go over the offensive keys and what needs to happen. Of course, the play calling needs to be aggressive. Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noe needs to be involved more. And of course, you got to get the tight end involved in Dalton Schultz. And side note, Houston needs to find a way to sign a free agent tight end that's available, assuming Harrison Bryant doesn't play this game. And also, Nico needs to have himself a good game as well, a productive game. And the offensive line, no excuses to why they don't effectively protect C.J. Stroud. And of course, Stroud needs to finally score his first touchdown versus the Ravens, which I could pretty much see happening, if all goes well accordingly. Sustain drives, don't commit dumb penalties, and of course, minimize the crowd noise, because the crowd noise will come into play this game too, especially on third downs. So you want to minimize the crowd noise, sustain drives, and put sixes on the board. And of course, as much as I like to see Nick Chubb getting a little bit more involved, wouldn't mind seeing Woody Marks a little bit more involved in that offense as well, even as the RB1, and make him more effective in the pass game too. Because seeing what he did versus the Titans, he needs to have pretty much have a much more effective outing versus the Ravens. Just like Stroud, came alive in that fourth quarter versus Tennessee. Need to come alive once again against the Ravens. This time for 4 quarters, 60 minutes. If it means not waiting until the fourth quarter to come alive. So the offense got to come alive for 4 quarters, 60 minutes. start off fast, because a slow start is the last thing this offense need. Just as long as Nick Caley doesn't go on around being conservative, because seeing how conservative he has been at times when it comes to the play calling. So, and on the defensive side, gotta need to see key sacks from key players such as Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter. And D-line got to also eat too. Stopping a run and creating sacks on that D-line. From Danico Autry, who is coming back, Mario Edwards, Tim Settle, hell, even Fatukasi, assuming he plays this week. And of course, got to create turnovers. And, turnovers and sacks truly matter. So Stingley got to have another good outing, along with Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock, Jalen Petrie, and Jimmy Ward, assuming he plays this week. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Mixon don't play this week, even though he's eligible to return. But I'll say rest Joe Mixon a little while longer. See if he's healthy enough to come back in the middle or late in 2025. Hopefully he's not out for 2025, but then again, I wouldn't be surprised if he's out for the year. But good thing we drafted Woody Marks just in case. But yeah, slow down Derrick Henry too, because those develop a reputation of giving the Texans run defense hell. Dating back to 2019 when he was playing with the Titans, creating havoc. And of course, he created havoc versus the Texans on Christmas 2024 on a holiday that Beyonce performed. Yep, this Texan fan haven't forgotten. So slow down Derrick Henry, eliminate the big plays through the air, and gotta watch Zay Flowers too, because Zay Flowers, that dude's nice, along with Rashad Bateman and Isaiah Likely. They still got some studs on their receiving end. Rashad Bateman, Isaiah Likely, the tight end, along with Mark Andrews. Them boys can catch. And of course, the elusive Zay Flowers. Gotta slow him down too. Can't let them boys get hot in the early going and often. Otherwise, secondary could be in for a long day. So, can't sleep on Cooper Rush. Cannot sleep on the Baltimore Ravens. Can't take even when banged up. Cannot take the Baltimore Ravens for granted at all. Yes, they have had our number, but one thing I noticed that the Baltimore Ravens, did make the playoffs last season. So this will be an opportunity for the Texans to get their first playoff win versus a playoff team. Since they're currently 0-2 versus playoff teams. They played week 1 and 2. They played the Rams and the Buccaneers, which both made the playoffs last season. So it'll be nice to get a win versus a playoff team, and before going on a bye week, because being 2-3 is better than being 1-4 going into the bye week. Because, like I mentioned before, it's not going to get any easier for the Texans as they head to another hostile environment in Seattle at Lumen Field, where the crowd noise is also a big factor to opposing teams that travel and play there. So, and there's some things that I want to mention too, that the Texans traded Cam Robinson in the 6th round pick to the Browns for a 7th round pick in return for 2027, along with signing a O-lineman from the Panthers practice squad in Kingston. And also ran into an Instagram post regarding Azeez Al-Shaair possibly facing a fine or suspension, based on the hit that he did on Cam Ward, which understandably should have been a penalty, though the ref decided not to throw a flag. You know, it should have been like a roughing the passer call or something. But my thoughts on that is, yeah, nothing wrong with playing aggressive, but not just Aziz Al-Shaair, but any defensive player, linebacker, D tackle, or defensive end, just got to be more careful though. Because being too reckless will get you caught up with a penalty or even an ejection. So I just want to put my brief thoughts into that. So of course I got to shout out, King Avo. Big shout out to you. Shout out to the brother King Avo. And of course, shout out to the brother, Keeping It Real, better known as KIR. Keeping It Real, the Ravens content creators. Shout out to you guys. And hopefully, this game shall be fun regardless, because I'm not expecting this game to be a blowout. Because you never know how the Texans offense is going to fare. Not just against the Ravens team, but any team in general. So shout out to you guys. And what I got to say is, may the best team win. So that's about all I have. Lloyd of Houston checking on up out of here. 713 to Space City. And I'm gone.